Okay. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about Beethoven's place in music history because so many years after the death of Beethoven, we still run to the concert hall to hear orchestras play any of his symphonies. And there has to be a reason for it, and I think part of it is the wonderful way in which he put the music together. He was a composer of extraordinary talent, but part of it goes beyond that. Part of it is the message that he sends. Music is for him not a servant of the state or of the church or of an aristocratic household or of a king or prince or anyone else. Music for Beethoven is an end in itself. Now, we can assume that Haydn, Mozart, Bach, the greats before Beethoven, had to feel that way too, but they couldn't express it in quite the same way Beethoven does. He's not fulfilling some job requirement. He's writing these symphonies so that he can show people that music is something to worship, to study, to love, to make part of your daily life. And I think in the Ninth Symphony, if you figure that he had written the other eight within a relatively short time, less than 20 years from beginning to end, and then over the course of almost a decade, he comes up with only the ninth. And not only because he was busy doing other things, but because it was so important for him to get a message across. And I get the feeling that he worried that as wonderful as some of his earlier symphonies might have been, people still didn't understand that if you love music enough and let it fill your life with beauty, that you might live your life more ethically. At least Beethoven believed it. It doesn't work that way in real history, but Beethoven believed it, and that was enough for him. And I think he was so afraid that when his death might come, that the first eight symphonies would not suffice to send the message across that the Ode to Joy text and that the music of the Ninth Symphony would be able to achieve. He wanted people to understand that music was a way of bringing out the most ethical behavior in people. That, today we tell each other, you don't need drugs, you don't need alcohol, you don't need gambling, you don't need anything to release the tensions and feel good about yourself. Let music do it for you. Now, Beethoven wasn't using the vocabulary I just used, but somehow I feel he with his deafness and with his loneliness and with his crabby behavior and with his sometimes uncouth appearance and with his trouble with landlords and trouble with... he still felt everything is worthwhile because of music, and because music can teach us not only to love God and be grateful to be alive, but to love each other and make life good for each other. So with the Ninth Symphony and with the text, he wasn't going to take another chance and have people maybe not understand what music could do for them. And so he had the text as a very explicit message, and hanging over that text before it, during it, and after it is the music which serves only itself. It serves the musical art. And I think that all of these symphonies of Beethoven, but probably the Ninth more than any other, still have that strength, that compositional logic, that compositional glory for which we feel great empathy, great love, reverence, and Beethoven's symphonies still rank as the most popular not only in this country, but around the world wherever classical music is played. I know that here in New York City, when the one remaining classical music station, WQXR, has at Christmas and New Year's time a countdown of listeners' favorite pieces. And now, I think the last year I heard it, they have 100 favorite pieces. Number one, reaching us at or toward midnight, when the new year is about to come in. Number one in 2016 and 2015 and 2014 and 2013, and as far back as I can remember, is Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. And this is the radio listening public, so the piece remains a tremendous moment in the history of music.
Nothing's getting it right. Okay, I think this time it worked. You can keep talking.
Okay. One of the things about the last movement, in addition to it being several movements rolled into one, that is unique, is the fact that it is a sonata cycle with 4 movements worth of music in it. It is a concerto. It is a concerto for 4 solo singers who even have a cadenza moment in it. And it is a concerto that involves also 2 expositions. The orchestra plays those variations at the beginning, and then the singers sing those variations. So choir is in a way also a concerto element. It is also a theme and variations. It in a way escapes the sonata allegro form that we would get in many first movements, because it's about a theme, the joy theme, that's varied rhythmically, varied registrally, varied in terms of tone color. The tenor solo in the second movement is the same theme in a different rhythm and tempo. The slow movement is a variation because its theme is contrapuntally perfectly matched to the joy theme. And then the joy theme fills the finale from beginning to end with even more climactic variations at the very end of the symphony. And so we have sonata elements, concerto elements, theme and variation elements, and to top it all off, it's a cantata. It is a cantata. It's about God and love and brotherhood.
And it has soloists plus the chorus.
And you have the world of music. The world of music is in it. The orchestra, bigger and better than it had ever been before. The timpani has soloistic passages in the scherzo. And you have 4 operatic type soloists. And so it's text and music about things that cantatas always had been about. And so I find this amalgamation of genres, cantata, sonata, theme and variation set, concerto, I find it amazing. Now, let me say that Beethoven writing for the human voice is not always the best composer. He treats the voices as if they were instruments, as if they could do what contrabassoons or piccolos do. And of course, human voices can't. They can do other things better than any instrument, but they are not instruments. And many people have criticized Beethoven for the way he treats the voice, but he didn't care. And he didn't care how hard a piano sonata like the Hammer Clavier would be, and he didn't care how hard a string quartet like the Grosse Fuge would be. He cared about music flexing its muscles, showing its veins bulging. It cared about music shrieking and sneezing and coughing and exploding and being the focus of attention of the human being, and having the human being lose him or herself in the experience of music. So while he wrote fairly well for instruments, in fact very well, and it's quite playable, if you're a singer and you have to do the symphony or the Missa Solemnis, it's a chore, and bring some cough drops along.
You can hurt yourself singing Beethoven.
These were